Hoa Hoa Orchid was very fast and hit the ice with great force. Lu Tu Duong quickly hugged Tao Huan Huan and jumped to the side to avoid it. Hoa Hoa has created a straight dent in the snow and ice. The iceberg was split in half. Lu Tu Duong sat down panting. He didn't have time to understand what had just happened. After Hoa Hoa realized that she had missed her attack, she immediately returned to her normal state and stopped. Its red eyes showed that it was also very angry at letting its prey get away. Hoa Hoa screamed meow meow and rushed straight towards Lu Tu Duong at very fast speed. Hoa Hoa rushed forward and used sharp claws to attack Lu Tu Duong. Lu Tu Duong was trained to be able to fight in any situation he encountered. Very quickly, he took out the gun and jumped away from Hoa Hoa's sharp claws. He then continuously shot the gun in Hoa Hoa's direction. Even with the sturdy body of a mutated animal, the bullets collided with Hoa Hoa's body, causing Hoa Hoa to wince. In the distance, Zhang Yi was holding a gun to support Hoa Hoa's attack on the attacker. Zhang Yi sat down, took out his gun and aimed precisely at Lu Tu Duong's direction. Zhang Yi thought to himself, I want to see how long you can run away. Zhang Yi continuously fired his gun at Lu Xiang, but Lu Xiang's supernatural ability seemed to give him incredible evasion speed. Lu Tu Duong fought with Hoa Hoa and was able to dodge Zhang Yi's bullets. Hoa Hoa continuously used her agility to attack Lu Tu Duong. But he used his superpowers to dodge everything, and was able to both dodge and fire bullets at Hoa Hoa. After a series of bullets that missed their target, Zhang Yi observed and thought in surprise, he could even avoid his own bullets. He has superpowers that can increase his speed and agility. Zhang Yi seriously pulled out a specially made bullet box from his strange space that could be used with his supernatural abilities. He loaded the bullets into the sniper rifle and laughed, let's see how much longer he can persist. Lu Tu Duong's side also seemed quite frustrated when having to deal with so many enemies at once. He continuously dodged Hoa Hoa's claws, thinking angrily, damn, having just been attacked by this monster, I still had to be on guard to avoid Zhang Yi's bullets from afar. I cannot escape. While avoiding Hoa Hoa's claw attack, he felt another projectile coming, and this projectile, unlike normal, had been enhanced with Zhang Yi's superpowers. He said, again? This time, although he was able to dodge the bullet grazed Lu Xiang's face, causing him to bleed. Just after dodging Zhang Yi's bullet, Hoa Hoa, with bloodshot eyes as if wanting to devour the enemy, rushed towards him. Lu Tu Duong did not have time to dodge, so Hoa Hoa's arm was bitten off. Blood from the wound sprayed everywhere. Lu Tu Duong immediately pulled out the bomb from his waist, intending to die with Hoa Hoa. He angrily shouted, damn animal, let's go die together. Before he could complete his last wish, a projectile from Zhang Yi's side was directed straight at the center of his forehead, ending this guy's moments of surviving in tension and resentment. A moment later, Hua Hua brought the two bodies of Lu Xiang and Tao Huan Huan in front of Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi approached the two corpses to observe and probe to see if he could find anything, but Hoa Hoa suddenly looked towards Tao Huan Huan's corpse and cried out 2 times meow, meow. Seeing that, Zhang Yi curiously asked, what's wrong, Hoa Hoa? Right then Zhang Yi seriously observed Tao Huan Huan. Although she was dead, there were many strange yellow halos surrounding her body. Zhang Yi looked and commented, this is the woman who snuck into my shelter. It seemed like she had something on her body. Zhang Yi quickly approached and examined this light. After he touched this light, Zhang Yi seemed to understand something, he thought in surprise. Is this her special ability? Right after Zhang Yi touched the supernatural light, Tao Huan Huan's supernatural energy immediately transferred to Zhang Yi's body. The light flow revolved around Zhang Yi's body and let him absorb them. Zhang Yi chuckled happily. So the powers of mutants can still be absorbed and combined with each other? After absorbing Tao Huan Huan's powers, Zhang Yi happily turned around and expressed a series of loving emotions, kissing Hoa Hoa. Zhang Yi happily said, Hoa Hoa, thank you very much. You're so good. Hoa Hoa also seems to be very happy, but Hoa Hoa's mind right now only has dried fish. You can love and kiss anything, but there must be fish. Zhang Yi then took Tao Huan Huan's body into the supernatural space and brought it back for research. But Lu Tu Duong's body did not have a supernatural light surrounding him, completely different from Tao Huan Huan. Zhang Yi wondered and said, isn't he a mutant? Why don't I feel the same as that girl when I interact with him? But despite thinking so, Zhang Yi continued to collect his body into the strange space. Zhang Yi thought about the future of this world. The world today is very strange. Creatures can mutate, people can also mutate. Until now it is full of things that make people difficult to understand. No matter what, after returning, I must prepare everything for battle carefully. After dealing with the two intruders, Zhang Yi returned. After entering the house, he immediately met Duong Xin. The little girl asked, Mr. Zhang Yi, the matter you asked me to investigate has progressed. Zhang Yi sat down and listened to Xin say, based on the analysis of the equipment on the two people you brought back last night, I found out that they came from an organization called the Taesun Refugee Department. Xin explained specifically, that place is very large, there are thousands of people living there. The Taesun organization's hierarchical structure is very strict. with hundreds of armed forces deployed, of which the most special members seem to be mutants and special operations units. Shin immediately summarized the situation. Ordinary soldiers, even if they are well trained and have ordinary weapons, cannot pose too great a threat to our settlements. As long as there are no more wall-penetrating people like that woman, it is basically difficult to cause damage to our house. Zhang Yi rubbed his head and praised Shin. So I have a way to fight. Shin, you're really good. The little girl who was praised by him was a little embarrassed and blushed. Little girl Shin happily said, "This kind of thing is just a small thing to me. Just wait and see. I will infiltrate the Tae-sun base's network." Zhang Yi heard this and happily said, "Great, I'm really looking forward to it." Just then Joku walked out. Zhang Yi saw that and immediately stood up and called her over. "Joku, did your side harvest anything?" Joku replied, "Follow me to the lab for a trip. I have a huge discovery." Then Joku took Zhang Yi's hand. She took him to the lab as a couple. Inside the room is Lu Tu Duan lying on the experimental bed. Joku took Zhang Yi to the molecular monitor. Joku explains, "Through autopsy, I discovered that the cells of these two people had mutated. Cells are 10 times more active than normal people, and the energy generated from the glycogen reaction is also released in a very normal way. Especially the reaction of brain cells is the most obvious. This proves that the main origin of the abnormality comes from the brain." Zhang Yi was very surprised when he heard Joku's words. He was surprised for a few seconds, then thought to himself, "Indeed so, when I absorbed this woman's powers, I took them from her brain." Zhang Yi smiled and said to Joku, "This is indeed a very interesting discovery." Joku shouted at Zhang Yi, You don't understand how important this discovery is." Joku explained, "Currently, mutations in the human body are all naturally mutated due to the influence of gamma rays, but the number is limited, and the effects caused by mutations are not necessarily useful." Joku then continued, "However, if someone can thoroughly research the mutation principle of mutants, or how to transplant cells, mutants can be created." Zhang Yi pondered and thought, "As you say, won't the whole world be mutants in the future?" Joku held Lu Xian's sample in his hand and explained, "Impossible, the probability of transformation is extremely low. Normal people using superpowers will cause very serious damage to their bodies. For example, this mutant man is very likely created by humans." Zhang Yi said with a sigh, "So that's it, he's only a little stronger than a normal person, and his strength can't increase anymore." Zhang Yi looked at Lu Xian's body and said, "If we say so, then the people who are influenced to transform at the Tae-sun base are nothing more than consumer goods in the eyes of the people in power of the Tae-sun base." Zhang Yi then went to little Lu Kaoran's place. The little girl gave Zhang Yi a piece of paper with the tools she needed. These materials are not difficult to find. If the goal is to kill people, even ordinary explosives can cause significant damage. I will improve the explosives even better. Anti-intrusion gas into the emergency department is just a small matter." Zhang Yi happily replied, "Okay, you should make the necessary tools first, without thinking about saving." Zhang Yi then went to his underground training room. He continued to take out his bow as usual. Zhang Yi raised his bow and arrow, aiming accurately. Zhang Yi then wrapped his spatial power on the arrow. The arrow was shot at an incredible speed, then flew straight towards the steel. The arrow flew straight into the center of the steel. The target was hit and immediately broke. Its power when covered with space powers was truly terrifying. Zhang Yi looked at it and admired himself. "My arrow shooting speed is now afraid it has surpassed the speed of sound." Zhang Yi tried again to wrap his space powers on his hands. He exclaimed, "I didn't expect that the power I stole would increase my strength much faster than if I had practiced hard for a month." At this time, the captain of Lu Shuyang and Tao Huan worriedly asked his subordinates, "How are Lu Xiang and Tao Huan?" The employee who was continuously working replied, 5 minutes ago we received their help signal. The location of the signal transmission has now been determined, but if you want to act, you must have Mr. Tran's permission." The captain said impatiently, "This matter involves the lives of his subordinates, I will immediately go see him." The captain of Tao Huan and Lu Tu Duan walked to the door of Tran Hin's room, and Ms. Ji Ro immediately raised her hand to stop them. "Captain Lang, for now, please don't bother Mr. Tran to rest. If anything happens, the company will report tomorrow." The captain and his subordinates stood and complained to Ji Ro. "Tao Huan and Lu Tu Duan and my team went out to carry out their mission. Now that his life is in danger, he has sent a signal for help to the base. He must report this to Mr. Tran immediately." Ms. Ji Ro smiled coldly and ignored everything. "Captain Lang, I can understand your mood, but you need to understand, no matter how hard you work, you can't be as hard as Mr. Tran, right? He had to work hard for the base's survival. Now that he's just fallen asleep, you're trying to bother him again. Do you want to abandon the safety of the Tae-sun base?" This captain said loudly, "What are you talking about? Isn't the lives of members of the special operations team important?" Ms. Ji Ro smiled slightly and said, "I didn't mean this at all, it's just that at the Tae-sun base, the leader is the highest existence above all." Captain Lang added helplessly, "Can't you really break the rules just once? Each member of the Special Operations Team is the most valuable talent of the Tae-sun base. Ms. Ji-ro bowed her head in sympathy and said, I'm really sorry. Sorry, I can't do anything. Captain Lang led his two subordinates away in discomfort and helplessness. Come back. If not allowed, we cannot act arbitrarily. Ji-ro glanced at Captain Lang and his subordinates as they left and smiled contemptuously. Inside, Tran Hin is enjoying happiness. He raised the glass of good wine in his hand and said, Tae-sun base now has many serious problems. Energy cannot be maintained for too long. Food is also very scarce. I'm busy every day. I'm just afraid of doing something wrong somewhere and people won't trust me anymore. The female student of Tiantan Academy sat next to Tran Hin and praised. It's really hard for you, with the strength of one person to maintain the operation of the entire Tae-sun base. It's really hard. Tran Hin was pleased with his slightly thin appearance. If you want to sit in a position that not everyone can sit in, you have to be able to endure the feeling that not everyone can. There are some things that if I don't do it, no one else can do it. For the survival and development of the whole base, even if it's harder, I don't mind. After receiving the notice from Ji-ro, the two female students immediately dressed and left. Tran Hin also informed Ji-ro to come inside and meet him. As soon as the two female students left, Ji-ro went into the room to meet his boss. Tran Hin asked, Just now someone came to see me. Who was it? Ji-ro answered the situation to Tran Hin. Lang Fong said that two members of the team went out to carry out the mission. It seemed they were in danger, so they asked for help back to the base. Tran Hin waved his hand as if he didn't care. He said, Then let them send a few people over there to investigate. But don't let captain-level people go. Before we know what's going on, we can't act rashly. Ji-ro obeyed. She replied, Clear, sir. The scene changes to the meeting room. Inside the room the team leaders and members are meeting to give their opinions, and there is especially the presence of teacher Liang, who was also recruited by the Tae-sun base to join the special team. At that moment, Ji-ro came. Captain Lang stood up and asked, Ji-ro, do you have any information? Ji-ro went to the main chair and stood to speak. Everyone can send people to investigate, but captain-level characters are not allowed. You are all the most noble fighting force of the Tae-sun base. We cannot let everyone take risks like that. Captain Lang helplessly replied in dissatisfaction. I got it. I will send someone over there. Captain Lang immediately led Teacher Liang to practice the mission. Teacher Liang held the sword and followed behind him. On the way, she met two female students of Tiantan Academy. Teacher Liang also glanced to see who it was. After seeing clearly who the two female students were, she called out their names. Meng Zichuan. Mantu Twin smiled softly and replied, Ms. Liang, that's so nice. I didn't expect to meet you here. Teacher Liang suddenly asked, Why are you here? Student Mantu Twin replied, Why can't you be here? If we hadn't used our beautiful appearance to serve Mr. Tran, we would be dead now like everyone else. Teacher Liang said in horror. Meng Zichuan, what are you talking about? These two female students showed disrespect for Teacher Liang. These two female students crossed their arms to show their pride. Tam Mak Lin patted Mantu Twin's shoulder and said, Okay, stop talking. Look out, we're in trouble. So Mantu Twin and Judge Mak Lin left. Ms. Liang grabbed Mak Lin's hand and asked, Tell me, what did we experience on the fourth floor? Tam Mak Lin turned around and answered, Miss Liang, after you left, many of your classmates disappeared. Teacher Liang asked worriedly, Disappear? Why is that? Tam Mak Lin cried sadly. We don't know the reason either, but we never saw them come back after being taken away. Then the little girl named Mak Lin added, Sorry Ms. Liang, I don't know about the other things. If you really want to know, it's best to find out for yourself. Or you can just pretend like nothing happened. And don't you dare ask about this. After speaking, both students immediately left, leaving Teacher Liang behind full of curiosity and worry. Teacher Liang thought, it could be a misunderstanding. They were actually sent to another place to work, but that place was just unknown to others. Teacher Liang immediately went to the fourth floor. As soon as she arrived, Teacher Liang saw Tan Vu. He immediately said, Ms. Liang, do you want to know where those classmates went? Teacher Liang suddenly exclaimed, then was stopped by student Tan Vu. He raised his hand and whispered, Be quiet, follow me. Tan Vu led Teacher Liang somewhere. They saw two staff wearing protective suits carrying a large bag. Then Tan Vu explained, During this time period, sometimes I was called to the second floor warehouse. When I passed by, I discovered this scene. The bag in front of me contained the body of a classmate who had gone missing. Teacher Liang suddenly said, What? Teacher Liang asked Tan Vu about this. Tan Vu, I will follow them to scout the situation. I want to see what they are doing. Is it as we suspect? Tan Vu replied. Then you have to be careful. Immediately after that, Teacher Liang quickly moved to the place where Teacher Liang was resting. Teacher Liang professionally sneaked into the locker room, without leaving a single trace, after which Teacher Liang took action and beat up a staff member of the base. Teacher Liang quickly put on her protective suit and replaced the other staff member, giving her a chance to investigate the situation. Teacher Liang then immediately moved to the morgue. Outside the morgue room there are two armed guards. After Teacher Liang walked in carrying a black bag, she saw the people inside whispering to each other. I failed again, this is the 8th time that day. The others said, their bodies have no way to adapt. Teacher Liang in the back heard this and wondered. Adapt to what? At that moment, Teacher Liang saw a dead young man lying in the box, making her quite surprised and panicked. She thought, in the end, what is this rescue department researching? Teacher Liang then did the same to avoid revealing any loopholes. You also brought the person you dealt with earlier. Teacher Liang brought that person into the box like the other bodies. Then an employee closed the box, then went to open the switch right next to it. The inside of that corpse box was now on fire. The fire broke out strongly when the person outside activated it. The powerful external fire burned everything. The scene changes to a box containing something white that looks very strange. Teacher Liang carefully observes and judges. What exactly are those white liquids? Teacher Liang recalled. It's exactly the same as the white dough I ate on my first day here. Doesn't that mean what I ate that day was actually this? Teacher Liang quietly turned around and left. She had just heard them talking to each other, she thought. They actually turn dead people into food for humans to eat, and they also only use it for the basic workforce on the 4th floor. The other two people at the food making machine said, Is there any banana flavor? The others said, There's a little bit, but not much. Let's go to the lab and make some more flavors. He scooped a cup he had just finished cooking into his hand and said, This dish is high in protein and nutrient oils. If you don't know what this thing is actually made of, it is actually very effective for supplementing energy and is especially effective. After Teacher Liang realized that what she had eaten before was this, she immediately turned away. She tried her best not to vomit, but she couldn't help it, so she immediately ran to the sink and vomited. After calming down, Ms. Liang scolded herself. This place is better than staying at Tiantan Academy. At least that monster only eats human flesh, so it's not impossible to deal with. Teacher Liang looked at her face in the mirror and judged. Here is clearly an evil organization. Teacher Liang immediately left, muttering as she left. I can't stay here anymore, I must find a chance to leave. She was walking and suddenly stopped, she said to herself, but when I leave here, where can I take the children? Scene changes to outside Zhang Yi's safe house. The rescue team from the Taesun base has arrived. A person holding a walkie-talkie. Captain, I found snowmobile tracks. Someone next to me said, move and check there. The rescue team followed the traces left behind and after a while arrived opposite Zhang Yi's safe house. That person was definitely in this manner. Everyone divided into 3-person squads and spread out, following the direction of the footprints on the ground. After hearing the order, this group of rescuers immediately took their guns in hand and spread out to advance. A young man with a gun stepped forward and stepped on something under the snow. He was curious and snorted. Nothing but the fact that he stepped on the wire of the grenade pin. The grenade's detonation mechanism was activated. Right after the seatbelt slipped away, the grenade was activated, the explosion took place. The grenade explodes, creating a huge damage radius. The captain could only helplessly call out his teammate's name, Chuoi. The captain waited until the explosion passed and then went to check the situation. He saw a horrifying scene. The captain of the rescue group was extremely angry and could only grit his teeth and curse. Damn it! These people could do nothing but be helpless. Then all these rescuers gathered together and opened fire. Gunshots rang out continuously, bullet casings fell all over the snow, creating noises. After they fired the bullets, they immediately flew outside Zhang Yi's house, but with the solidity of the safe house, these bullets could not do anything. Not even a small amount of force could do it. Can create. Zhang Yi heard a loud noise from outside. He immediately went forward and whispered, Gunfire, people from the Taesun organization have arrived. Zhang Yi went to the living room and saw Zhou Ko and Yang Mi standing nervously. He immediately raised his hand to call the AI system. Launch optical protection device, feedback system. Yes, started. Zhang Yi immediately walked to the window and looked at the optical protection device being set up. Zhang Yi observed the situation outside. He saw a group of people outside. He laughed. Finally, a worthy opponent has appeared. Zhang Yi looked at the rescuers of the Taesun base. These people helplessly opened fire on the safe house. The firepower had all attacked the optical protective shield. Seeing that, he smiled and said, That's good. If I don't meet a professional opponent, then wouldn't this high-class emergency department of mine have been wasted? Soon they stopped attacking, and went looking for traps under the snow so they could get close to the safe house. One guy said, Captain, I found the grenade. Another guy also found signs of grenades, he happily said. Captain. Before he could finish his sentence, Zhang Yi inside the safe house immediately took out the control button and activated it. An explosion was triggered again, and before the victim could finish speaking, he was detonated by Zhang Yi. The explosion killed him instantly. This group of rescuers turned around and looked in panic. The captain clenched his hand and scolded. Who is he and why does he have these weapons? A guy walked up and said, We don't understand the enemy at all. We also don't have EOD equipment and advanced weapons. We should report to the base and ask for help. The captain said loudly, No, we ourselves are already the rescue team. Wouldn't it be a loss of dignity if we asked for help from the base again? The other guy could only say, But. The captain immediately shouted, No but, continuing to attack. I don't believe this mansion has no weak points. The guy then added, Captain, don't work with emotions. The captain was even angrier. I don't work with emotions, we don't have any intelligence about this place. If we don't fight, then the other brothers will have to fight too. This time we are the first team to take the lead. Get the intelligence of this villa first and then speak. The captain named Tam Hone looked at Zhang Yi's safe house and said, "It's just a turtle with its head retracted. As long as we can attack inside, we can definitely kill the bastard inside." Zhang Yi was still observing the rescuers of the Tae-sun base. Yang Mi asked Zhang Yi, "By doing so, did they really find our loophole?" Zhang Yi sat back in his chair and judged. "When I first arrived at this emergency department, I checked it around very carefully. Furthermore, I check every 3 days, and there are no external loopholes at all." After hearing this, Yang Mi felt reassured and prayed for herself and everyone to be safe and sound. Yang Mi added, "But being probed without fear like that, I still feel a little worried. If they really find our sister Hauer." Zhang Yi turned his head and replied, "You mean, if we could proactively attack, it would be better, right?" Yang Mi blushed a little shyly. She said softly, "I really have this idea." Zhang Yi smiled and said, "Wanting to attack them is actually very simple, but I prefer to fight defensively. No need to worry. Let's see how their attack skills are." Outside, a group of rescuers from the Tae-sun base's rescue department were discussing combat plans. Its defensive power is terrifying. Its construction materials are not inferior to a citadel of modern warfare. If its only drawback is that it has no way to attack, this can be considered a lucky thing. He headed towards Zhang Yi's safe house and continued, "It can even be said that it is a shelter built for the end of the world, for survival, simply for defense. It's not strange for this rich area to have such architecture appear. After all, those people have so much money that they're afraid to pick it, or do a lot of bad things, afraid of others coming to take revenge, so they wasted money. A lot of money to build such a house." Captain Tam Hone said, "That's why they set so many traps on the road. Now that all the traps have been removed, they can only sit still and be beaten." He said smiling, "Now we use explosives to blow up a corner of this house, then rush in to kill them." The guy next to him was helpless with this thought and said, "I don't know how much explosives will be needed to do this." Captain Tam Hone said confidently, "Even if it's a citadel on a battlefield, it only needs a sufficient amount of explosives to be able to destroy it. Wouldn't such a private emergency shelter be stronger than a citadel? Concentrating firepower to attack in one place, anything can be done. Inside the house is safe." Zhang Yi observed through the window and saw this group of people loading explosives in one place. Zhang Yi smiled softly and said to Joku and Yang Mi, "You guys just wait until you see a good movie. I'll go give them a lesson." After the rescue group from the Tae-sun base placed the explosives, they quickly left. Captain Tam Hone counted down the time. 3, 2, 1, explosion. After Captain Tam Hone pressed the detonation button, a terrible explosion took place. An explosive sound echoed throughout the sky. The explosion created a powerful shockwave that covered the explosion. After the explosion passed, the results left the rescuers helpless and surprised. Why is this? Not even a scratch. After all, how solid is it? The explosion only melted a pile of ice and snow around it. The safe house still stood there. The rescuers of the Tae-sun base were all amazed and exclaimed, "This emergency shelter is too solid." The rescuers of the Tae-sun base looked at the passing explosion and said in boredom, "The ground is also covered by this black material. That is to say, we can't do anything if we want to attack directly, and we can't even reverse the underground tunnel to attack." Captain Tam Hone said, "The weapons in our hands cannot do anything to this villa. Please come to the rescue team and let the company lead the demolition team." The one-eyed man gestured with his hand and said, "If it doesn't work, maybe I can try it." His mover brought him something. Captain Tam Hone saw the sniper rifle and said in panic, "You want to use it?" The one-eyed man replied, "Not bad, this sniper gun of mine can destroy tanks." He immediately took the aiming position to look for the target. He said, "Even if it's bulletproof glass, I have to check whether it can withstand my shot or not." Having said that, he immediately opened fire. The bullet from the sniper rifle flew towards the glass in front of Zhang Yi, but could not leave any trace, not even a trace of force. That shot made Zhang Yi quite startled. Zhang Yi looked at the bullet and touched the bulletproof glass and exclaimed, "This is a heavy sniper gun." Zhang Yi smiled slightly and looked through the window and said, "It's so scary. This bulletproof glass is only about 80 centimeters thick, yet he scratched it. What if he fired several tens of thousands of bullets, breaking the glass?" On the outside, he was immediately embarrassed. There was silence around him. No one dared to laugh at him. It wasn't that this gun was weak, it was just that Zhang Yi's safe house was too strong. This guy shouted angrily, "In the past, I used this gun to turn the coffin into a pile of mud. What is this shelter made of? Why are there no weaknesses?" The captain behind him patted his shoulder encouragingly and said, "The defensive power of this emergency department is even more terrifying than that of our Tae-sun base. We cannot break it with just the weapons in our hands. We should still go back and report this news to our superiors." Immediately after that, the team leader took out his radio and announced, "All retreated." Zhang Yi inside the safe house observed this situation. He immediately ordered the AI system, Open the window. As soon as the window was opened by the AI system, Zhang Yi took out his sniper rifle. He equipped the gun with a silencer and aimed at the target. One person in the rescue group at Taesun base noticed it. He informed his captain. Captain, the second floor window has been opened. These two guys immediately took out their guns and shot continuously at Zhang Yi. However, Zhang Yi used one hand to use his space ability, absorbing all the incoming bullets into space. Zhang Yi smiled softly and said, "The chance to get a sniper rifle to destroy tanks is not much, I have to keep it."